Good day to you all. Welcome to Boost Your Food Safety Process and Profitability with Government Grant Funding. This is hosted today by Fair Grant Writing and the SFPM Food Consulting. Maintaining uncompromising food safety and profitability are critical to growing food-based businesses. It requires specific processes, knowledge, and rigorous implementation. These activities can be costly, but there are government grant opportunities to offset them. Today, Felicia Liu of SFPM Consulting and Igor Shigrin of Fair Grant Writing will tell us a little bit more about these topics. Before we go on, there will be a question and answer period at the end of the presentations. Please put your questions in the chat and we will begin with those before opening the floor to discussion. If you have a confidential inquiry, please message us individually with your contact information and we will contact you after the webinar. And without any further ado, I'll now turn it over to Felicia.
Yep. Let me get the screen started. Fine, is the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you everyone for coming in. Good morning. I'd like to start the webinars by expressing my thank you and sincere gratitude for everyone here. This is your dedications and your hard work to keep our food safe, supplies safe during this difficult period. So thank you. So a little bit about myself. I'm a certified food scientist. I'm also a certified SQL consultant. I specialize in working a lot with food safety plans and SFCR program development, helping a lot of food manufacturers getting their food safety certifications through a GFSI program. So my specialty is mostly in the SQF area, but I also help in FSSC or organic kosher halal certifications as well. Okay. One of our core beliefs is we specialize in food safety plan and food safety management system to deliver what matters to you and your customers. So that means your regulatory and customer expectations and building in that return on investment for your business. That's why we're here today, to make sure that you're also taking into account when you're building your food safety system, your return on investment. A little bit of agenda for today. We'll dive into a little bit about the food safety, why food safety, the relationship between food safety and brandings, and how to transition from a simple food safety program to a GFSI program. And really, what would you get from the food safety program? And then Igor will share a little bit on the food safety funding opportunities as well. So why do you need food safety program? Food safety is a food safety regulatory requirement. If you're working in Canada, the Safe Food for Canadian regulations requires the food exporters, manufacturers, importers, and distributors to have a SFC license, especially when you're transferring your products from an intra-provincial perspective, and meet certain requirements pertaining the need to have preventative control plan, customer protection plan, traceability, and recall plan. This is SFCR requirements in terms of, in a nutshell. So to give you a perspective, all the products that we make in Canada and sold in Canada, whether it's been manufactured here or been imported into Canada, must meet the Safe Food for Canadian requirements for human consumptions, meeting that labeling requirements, and for traceability. When we talk about traceability, there are two types of traceability. One is trace forward towards your customers. One is trace backward towards your supplier. All right, a lot of questions that I always get asked. Can food safety grow your business? We believe that yes, it is. And there are a lot of whys, but I'm sure the first very important things that you can agree with us is that business continuity is the most important part of running a food business. So we believe, our core belief is to help our clients to manage costs while instilling the good food safety culture. And these are all the benefits that we will get from having a good food safety and food safety management system. It all starts with customers and regulatory requirements. Trust in your food brand also means trust that the food will meet the expectation of your customers. And one of them, of course, are the food safety, which always is an unspoken expectation. It's simply a must. In terms of social responsibility, it's our social responsibility to keep our customers safe. In addition, we want to make sure also we want to prevent that recalls and the recall costs. Do you know that an average recall costs about $10 million? That's a lot of money. Plus, if you haven't earned it, plus the stress and to go through a recall and a lot of paperwork, a lot of costs that is associated with it, and the brand reputation that goes along with your recall. It also helps with decreasing your waste if you have a good food safety management system. A food company with a positive food safety culture also helps promote employees' morale and help the employees with employee retention. Also helps the company to kind of build and strengthen your brand and therefore maximizing and optimizing your return on investment. Right? Moving on. So investing on food safety program. What exactly are you investing? So in our next slide, when we talk about investment, what is in your mind? A lot of times when we talk about investment, we think about this, cost and benefits. So you're looking at money, you're looking at human resources, equipment, your time, and you may weigh in that return on investment. That's all very true. The question for you today is, what happens if you do not invest on a justifiable investment? For example, we look at the costs in terms of, say, we have a malfunction equipment that produce poor quality products, not efficient, and hard to clean. It meets all the no's for food safety, no's to food quality, no's to human frustration. We're all frustrated, and we only get the return. We will get the return on investment within 5 years, but we decided to wait. So what happens? You have poor quality. Poor quality costs money because it creates poor products. Your customers is upset. They're asking for a lot of refunds. You got waste. You have a lot of waste because the product just do not credit. Your employees are frustrated. It costs. Any temporary repair, temporary measure you put into the equipment, it costs. And then there is the food safety risk. There is the food recall risk. Everything that goes in it, if you do not invest, really costs you, right? In summary, that investment actually is about judging between the costs and the risks, right? So you got cost and benefit at one end, and you got cost and risk at the other end. So investment is always about getting that risk minimized to a level that is acceptable and lower the risk for you. So today we'll hear from Ego to how to benefit from some fundings to make sure that you're investing on the right items and plan to keep your business growing while reducing that recall. Okay. So transitioning from HACCP to GFSI program. So if you're at the stage where you're thinking about GFSI program, that means you're growing. And I like the topic of growth. Your food business grows. As it grows, we look at the transition from a basic food safety program to a globally recognized program. On the next slide, you see a few GFSI recognized logo. And that is just simply a few options that is available to you to show that you have dedication and commitment towards your food safety management system. So they're very, very common in North America. You would see SQF. FSSC is mostly in Asia. BRC is mostly in Europe, although we do have them here. The rest of others are mostly the IFS, global gaps. They are mostly pre-farm, so on-farm kind of GFSI program. So let's understand a little bit on what's the difference between when we're talking about a GMP program, a HACCP program, and a GFSI program. What are the differences between those? So when we talk about food safety program, we often talk about HACCP program. So HACCP program has a very, very long name, but basically it's a systematic approach and preventative approach that we take to make sure that we identify the hazards. So basically biological, chemical, and physical hazards to, to the process so that we can reduce this risk to a safe level. This program is called hazard analysis and critical control point. So you take the HACCP program and you build in a little bit more in terms of food safety management system, you get a GFSI program. So for example, you add on the management commitment, you also add on the customer complaint, product development and initiations, business continuity. Food fraud is huge. Food defense is also huge, especially if you're exporting to the States, it's huge. You also add on that regulatory compliance to be a part of that GFSI program. In the next slide, we'll look at whether or not you're ready to transition from HACCP program to a GFSI program, right? So when should you transfer to a GFSI program? So sometimes when you need a more holistic approach to manage food safety program, that's when you transfer it. Your customer might want a GFSI program. They'll tell you, hey, we really do need you to get a HACCP program. We really do need you to get a SQF program or something similar for you to market it to our store, right? And a lot of times being GFSI certified means you're more competitive in the food market. Sometimes when you're exporting or importing the products out of the country, you need a GFSI program as well. So a lot of times everyone also asks, how do you choose a GFSI program? Because it's confusing. There's so many out there and it's confusing. I'll say it's based on your customer's demand. What do your customers need? They will tell you exactly what they need. You can ask, do you want SQF? Do you want BRC? Do you prefer FSSC? They will be able to advise you on that. And also human resources that you will need. In terms of human resources, we are talking about expertise in the area. A lot of us food safety professional in the North America, especially Canada, we are very trained on SQF. We can help you a lot with SQF. But if you're going on a FSSC program, you may not get that expertise. You have to really look for those food safety professionals that have experience on those. But again, it doesn't mean that it cannot be done. It's just a little harder for you to find that human resources, right? And that ties into the staff expertise, the cost of the implementation. So you want to make sure you're also comparing a little bit between that certification body, how much it takes in terms of getting that certification, getting that audit done, getting the auditor into the region, very important. A lot of times not a lot of not all the food safety auditors are the same. They may have different expertise, and if you do not have it in your area, you might need to bring in someone else from, say, the States to Canada. It incurs the cost for the flight, the auditors, and all those things. You need to also consider that as well. Okay. So here are a few best food safety management practice for you to ace your food safety audit. So make sure you are also developing a working food safety program. So what that means is that you have a food safety program that is uniquely yours. You cannot just take a template and just change the company name and use it. It doesn't work that way because that's not your system. You want to make sure that you are tailor-made that system into something that is workable for you And my recommendation is to really go through that, whatever you're developing, and make sure it works for you. Okay. Food safety culture. It's what you do when no one is watching. That's a good, very short summary. Food safety cultures are very important because that also shows the auditor, the regulatory, and also keeping your products safe when you're not there. So, what will people do when you're not there? That's a basic thing. But you want to make sure that people are letting you know there's an issue if you're not there, flagging if you're not there so that you can catch it before it goes out of your door, making sure you have resources allocated to manage your food safety program. If you're rushing, make sure that all the food safety protocols that you have in place are in place and being monitored, making sure that your staff are trained and they know what to do. It's very, very important. So a lot of times we find that the staff doesn't know what to do, so they are doing whatever they think is right, but it's not, and that would cost your business, your brand, all money in some sense, in terms of waste, product that doesn't qualify. We also want to make sure that we are regularly monitoring our procedure to make sure it works. Good documentation practice are always key because that is what we look for when there's an issue. And it also proves that we have done our due diligence and our work. Okay, awesome. So here are a few quick glance of how you can benefit from a GFSI program. Mainly, we're talking a little bit on process improvement. We're looking at creating that process stability. So that means if you want a product that is always the same, your customers like the same product, you're able to generate that product all the time and consistently meet your customer expectation. We, when your process is stable, we can also optimize your process so that it maximizes the waste reduction. So you do not waste a lot as much of your resources to create the same product. You're getting happy and focused employee because they're focused on making your product. They're not focused on dealing with customer complaints, handling and sorting product that doesn't meet the stage. You also get that trust from your customers and optimize your brand. There are a few ways that we can help, and we help build, review, and help coach, advise, or train your staff in terms of the safety program, as well as when it's stable, will help optimize your process. So here are the kind of my part of the presentation. I'll pass it on to Ego to share his the food funding that you have been waiting for. If you have any questions, happy to take them after.
All right, thank you, Felicia. That was great. Quite a bit of knowledge, and I actually have a question for you. I'll bring it up at the very end. At this point, I will turn it over to Igor, who will tell us a bit about the grant funding opportunities available to help us out.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. My name is Igor Chigrin, the principal at the FAIR Grant Writing. Today, happy to present to you with some government funding opportunities that are available for food safety and traceability. However, rest assured that there are government grants and loans and other types of government funding for much more than that. So we just focused on this topic today, but I'll brief you on the other options available for you. Now, just a couple of words about what we're going through today. I'll give you a couple of words about FAIR grant writing. I'll give you an overview of what the government, what type of government funding is available for you, for your business. We'll talk about British Columbia and Ontario funding programs specifically for food safety and traceability. This is where most of our attendees are from, so that's why we focused on those two. provinces. But if you are not from one of those provinces, don't worry. There's definitely a program in your region. It maybe just has a different name, but those programs, they for sure are coast to coast. And we'll conclude with questions and answers. Let me start with a bit of an introduction about fair grant writing. We are a professional technical and business technical writing firm that is in business since 2013. We've been focused on writing applications for government, different types of government funds, and over those years accumulated millions of dollars, secured millions of dollars to our clients, which we are very happy for. We have a very straightforward and efficient information gathering process that minimizes the time clients spend with us, and the rigorous 4-step quality control process to make sure that the applications that we write are high quality and have the good chances for success. A bit of a theory, information. There are different types of government funding available in Canada. And by the way, we don't just talk about provincial programs. We deal with both federal, provincial, sometimes even the municipal programs, but all of them can be broken down by certain types. So first of all, the government grant is the non-repayable funding that is awarded for your business for a specific purpose. It's very important to understand that the government funding is not available just because, right? Just because your business exists, you're not entitled to receiving any government funds. You have to have a project or a specific purpose, such as R&D, such as skills training, such as buying equipment, or implementation of food safety program, for example. So these are the examples of the projects that qualify for the government grant. Government loan, the difference between government grant and the loan is that it's a repayable loan, and in most cases interest-free. So there's definitely a big savings on interest that you would normally pay to the commercial funding institution. Tax credit is another form of a non-repayable funding, but unlike the grants, it's awarded retroactively. That means that you have to complete your project first and then apply for the government, for the tax credit. Due to the situation, we also have temporary COVID-related subsidies, such as wage subsidy, rent subsidy, also a bunch of interest-free loans and tax credits as well that are temporary. Most of them expire in June 2021. However, it could be extended. We'll see. But those are multiple programs, and depending on your business situation, you may access either one program or two or all of them. Hopefully, you're not at the stage where you have to apply for all of them. So now let's dive a little bit deeper into the specific funding programs. We'll start with British Columbia. And the first program I wanted to tell you about is the post-farm food safety. This program is available for BC-based food businesses, but they not necessarily have to be food processors. As you can see, they can also be, say, packagers, warehouses that store foods, exporters, importers of food products, transporters of food, and all of them qualify for this program, which basically provides funding for you to complete the assessment or pre-audit of your current situation with food safety, analyze your risks, and then once that analysis is completed, you can use this money to improve your food safety process, or for example, introduce food safety practices into your operations. Right, and you can get 70% of the project cost, so all of those expenses, up to a maximum of $20,000. We expect the intake in April or May of this year, as soon as the new fiscal year starts, and the government fiscal year starts on April 1st of every year. Traceability adoption is another program, a very popular program. I'll tell you why later. But this one is, again, for BC-based agri-food businesses that are operating in BC or also farms based in BC. The purpose of the program is mainly to install software and hardware that will support your traceability program. The examples here are that you see are not inclusive. At least could be any other applicable hardware or software for traceability. But as long as you meet this goal, and this is what you want to accomplish, you can get 70% of the project budget up to a maximum of 16,000. Now, next intake is January 2022, and that's not a mistake or typo. Unfortunately, the program is so popular that it ran out of money within a matter of six weeks, pretty much. The BC government opened the intake in January 2021, but as I said, unfortunately, the funding was depleted very fast just because there's so much demand. And that teaches all of us a lesson that if you are aware of any specific government program, government funding program, and if you have a project, you should not delay because you never know how much funds are available. And even if you do, you don't know how many applicants are here for the funds. So take notice of that program and make sure that by next January you are ready and apply in the first, say, 5 days or maybe 10 days. Traceability value chain. Starting with the good news that the next intake will be in April of 2021. So you have some time to prepare for the intake. Now, again, the eligibility criteria is pretty straightforward. You have to be based in BC, but in this case, though, it's not just for one company. It's for 3 or more companies that are connected by value chain. The simple example could be, say, a farm, a processing facility, and a warehouse, or something kind of similar in between. Maybe some kind of a farm, say, pre-processing facility, and then say a baker or something like that. So anyways, there has to be at least 3 businesses in one value chain. And you'll see that the structure of eligible costs is pretty similar to what we've seen before. But again, it's just everything kind of multiplies by 3 here. And in this case, all 3 of you combined can receive 70% of the project costs up to $75,000. And again, I want to highlight that intake starts on April 1st. So by all means, if you need to talk to somebody in your value chain, start this conversation now. Now let's move east to Ontario and look at what food safety and traceability funds are available here. First of all, there's a training money to complete food safety and traceability training. The eligibility criteria is pretty straightforward as well. Has to be a business involved in food for human consumption. So animal food, fortunately, is not eligible, at least for this program. Has to be small, medium business, or it could be also a new food processor. So if you just started your business, your food business, and you have no idea what safety and traceability is, or you have very general idea, you can apply for this funding and get 45% of the training cost covered by the grant, up to a maximum of $1,500. Maybe not a lot, but if you just get started, it definitely helps. Every bit of money helps. Traceability equipment for food safety. It's another good program available for Ontario food businesses. In this case, as well, just like we've seen in the BC program, in the similar BC program, you can spend the money for buying and installing upgrading of food of the traceability systems and equipment. Any costs associated with training employees how to use the equipment is also eligible. And in terms of the compensation, in terms of the grant, the government provides 35% of the project costs up to $10,000. Now, the intake is to be announced, and just like with the previous program, we expect the funds to be available in springtime, but unfortunately, there's no specific intake date yet. Although the last intake was quite a while ago, so we definitely wait and look forward to the new intake very soon. And we probably will see the new intake date close to April or in the beginning of April, as soon as the new provincial budget is out there. But in the meantime, let's talk about everything else that's available and could be available in Ontario. Food safety equipment, and as you can see, like in Ontario, they split up between traceability and safety equipment. But nevertheless, the funds are out there, and for any food safety equipment that you are purchasing, you can get 35% of the expenses up to a maximum of $10,000. Now, in terms of improvement of your systems and process, let's say you already are an established food producer, have your food safety and traceability systems in place. However, based on your analysis, or maybe the gap analysis funded by the government, you realize that it does not meet your needs or maybe government standards or maybe expectations of your clients. So what you do is you can apply for this program, and then these funds could be used for pretty much everything from updating and writing policies to buying equipment and training of employees how to use the equipment and how to operate the equipment. Also, any kind of software, including cloud-based, subscription-based software service applications that will help you to track your data. Those are examples of eligible costs, and of course, all the certification costs, audit costs, and all sort of automation systems that will move your food safety and traceability system on the next level. It's the most lucrative funding program in Ontario for food safety and traceability, provides 50% of the project expenses up to $75,000. And again, we'll just wait for the announcement. Hopefully it will come sooner than later, and we'll have the update for for you, because we have the contacts of everyone who participated in the webinar. Now let me broaden your vision, if you will, and tell you a bit more about what else is available for Canadian agri-food sector. The funding programs that you've seen before are all parts of the larger framework called Canadian Agricultural Partnership. And although the name of this framework has agricultural in it, it's not exclusively only for farmers, for producers. So producers, food and beverage products made out of either Canadian or imported agricultural products is eligible. And this is a large framework of programs that is available everywhere in Canada, in every province. The only issue that intake dates vary from province to province, or province or territory, but it doesn't really matter, because the types of projects and the types of compensation, types of funds, the amount of funds are somewhat similar coast to coast. So just to make sure that you are aware of what else is available under this large framework called Canadian Agricultural Partnership, there's money for things like purchasing hardware and software. And software, I mean, not necessarily related to food safety and traceability, but things like ERP systems, right, for food plants, for example, or hardware, let's say, or let's say robots, machines, automation tools, any tools to automate the food production and make it more effective, efficient. That's the main goal of the government, to make Canadian agricultural sector more competitive, more effective. There's also funding for research and development of food products. There's funding for marketing food products across Canada and outside Canada. And lots of other options, other programs. I do suggest you to even look up Canadian Agricultural Partnership in your province. That's the important thing. You don't just say Google Canadian Agricultural Partnership. You specifically search for, say, Canadian Agricultural Partnership in Nova Scotia or BC or Alberta, whatnot. In terms of the government funding provided to those projects, again, it varies from program to program, but the maximum amount of funding that we've seen is $200,000. This is for buying equipment. Again, check in your province which programs are open and which intakes are open at the time, because it varies quite significantly. And we are coming to the end of the presentation, so just wanted to highlight that we have a book called Get Funded, in case if you're interested to learn more about the types of funding, how to approach your funding, how to select the right project for the government funding applications and get the tips from the funders and writers. This book is available to order on our website, as well as Amazon and other popular online bookstores. And now it is time for questions and answers. Happy to answer your questions. By the way, as a takeaway for you, I want to highlight that on our website, we have a free eligibility check form that you can fill out, and it will take you maybe 1 minute at most. However, this information will give us enough data to understand what type of funding programs are you need, and what type of, we can match your needs with the funding programs that are available. If they're not available right away, we'll let you know, and we'll let you know as soon as the appropriate funding program is available. Okay, over to you, Colin.
Okay, well, thank you, Igor. Let me just get my Q&A screen up here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you to Igor and Felicia. There was a wealth of information in their presentations, and I don't see any questions in the chat at present. So what I'm gonna do, just give me a moment, please, is that I am going to open up I'm gonna enable everyone's mics, so you'll be able to simply unmute yourselves. Allowed to talk. You can just unmute yourselves and go ahead and ask your questions. In the meantime, as you do that, I do have a couple of questions. I'll start out with you, Felicia. I have a friend who is trying to get her catering business off the ground, and she is obviously going to be concerned about a food safety program. How expensive is a food safety program for someone operating at a scale where she's trying to literally take it out of her kitchen?
So you're trying to transfer it into a commissary, for example?
Well, not so much a commissary. What she's doing is more events-based things and family dinners, that sort of thing. But she wants to scale to a position where she is operating no longer out of her kitchen. Maybe wants to make that step from a kitchen to a small rented, from her home kitchen to a small rented kitchen.
All right. And that usually you would take it into a commissary. So commissary is actually the cheapest way you can get out from your own kitchen. Your own kitchen is not an approved area for you to do your business and to cook food, basically. So it can vary depending on how much you use the space. Different commissary charge differently. Well, it really depends on the commissary to charge their fees. In terms of managing food safety, there are a little bit of gaps from you start from a zero to a kind of something, right? To make sure your food is safe and make sure that the documents and business license are there. I would say I would give it around just the program itself to develop. Give it around 2,000-3,000 to develop and start maintaining it on a regular basis. So take that much, and then it wouldn't be a certification. You would not get a certification yet, just because you do not need it yet unless your customers require it.
Right. Okay, I'll certainly pass that information along to her. And for Igor, I heard you say something very interesting. I know it's something that we have had many questions about here at Fair Grant Writing. You had said that some of the cloud-based food safety software are eligible for grants. So is that now to include those cloud-based software that are under a software as a service license?
Exactly. It was a huge push to the government from the business community to recognize the software as a service as eligible software category, because let's say 5 years ago, there wasn't too many SaaS companies. So the only software that was eligible and only implementation that was eligible was the on-premise implementation. That's when you have IT consultants at your facility for like 10 months and they implement a monster at your facility. And then to train everyone how to use it. It's because the concept change, the software industry really changes and their approach changes. Finally, the government started to recognize the software as a service approach as the legitimate and eligible software expense for certain applications, for certain programs.
Okay, that is a very important development.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think for all of us here, we need to note that very carefully because it does change the landscape for what we can access.
Correct. The only warning here is that yes, SaaS is eligible under this food safety traceability programs, but let's say if you are not in the food sector, and you are looking at the grant for software implementation or software training, you have to double check whether or not that particular grant has SaaS as eligible expense.
Okay.
So it's not, unfortunately, it's not universal yet, but we see the positive moves towards this direction.
Well, the food industry leads the way on that one, eh?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And for those of you who are looking for grants and information on grants, please feel free to reach out to Fair Grant Writing. We can help guide you with this. We do try to keep abreast of all of these developments in the grant space. And again, I think you guys are now very well set in terms of having this availability for software as a service being eligible for grants. It's been something, Igor will tell you, it's been something that's been an issue for a lot of companies across many industries for years now. All right. So those were my two questions. Are there any other questions from our audience or any comments? Please unmute. You'll have to click on your microphones to unmute, and at that time we'll be able to hear you. If you're having difficulty with that, please go ahead, put it in the chat, and I can read it out for you.
Yes, I will go ahead with questions. So say, for example, I have a question. I'm thinking of applying for a grant. What is the best time for me to start preparing and getting that application information in, so that I will be able to be, at least my application will be reviewed, because I know sometimes it's hard. As soon as you hear about them, they disappear. So when is the best time for me to start preparing and making sure that I'm ahead of that
As soon as you know as soon as the intake date is announced. Yeah.
game? So
If
how many
it
days
makes
do I
sense.
get?
Oh no, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
There's a period when after the intake opens,
Yeah.
and nobody actually knows how fast the funds will be depleted. So I'd say it's too late to prepare when the intake has already started. You have to prepare before the intake starts. So as soon as you know that, say the program starts on April 1st, then I'd say 8 to 6 weeks before is probably a good time frame to start preparing. Just because you'll need some time to gather documents, whatnot. So I'd say 6 to 8 weeks before the intake starts. So that when the intake starts, you quickly write it up and get it out there.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Well, with that, I will open the floor. One last question, if there is. So I would say last question, going once, going twice, and thrice. Okay. Thank you, Igor and Felicia. Ladies and gentlemen, our time for today has run out. Thanks again to Igor and Felicia for their presentations, and thanks to all of you on behalf of Fair Grant Writing and SFPM Consulting for joining us today. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I will put our contact information there, and you can reach out to us through any of those channels, and we will be happy to address your questions and assist you with food safety consulting or grant writing services. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.